tree. I'm like, I think so too. And the Brad's like, we ain't losing it.
No, that's the thing.
But it's going, it's the same tree, there's one
They
bigger.
lose a bunch of leaves in the spring.
Yeah, but the first two didn't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was significant. I was like, I love that tree. I love that tree.
Our trees are pretty and they're big. The leaves that they drop,
But on the backside, you don't do anything with them other than mow them, right?
the trees in the back.
Yeah.
I keep
For that front one, the front
those
ones,
two front ones.
yeah, they do.
God, they drop a lot of leaves. And they're really pretty all year, but in the spring, like the last 2 months, it's insane the leaves they drop.
They're not scratching ears.
You know, they're live oaks. Those big 50-gallon construction bags, 6 of them, nothing but leaves. And we grind them, like mulch the leaves, put them through the mower to get them in the bags. And it takes, we just did it, and it was 6 bags. Well, we tried to burn them. We did burn a bunch of them. But I think there's, I told Jen that we were smothered in fire, like it wouldn't burn. I was like, you gotta let them burn. So there's a bag left in the garage. Yeah, 6 bags. So we'll do that with the leaves in the back, like the mulch and the yeah, I got all the plants, I just didn't plant them. I did flower beds instead. Oh, you know, yeah, that was capital.
Did you still look at the apples?
No, I'll have to read it. I'm good. I'll take it. Right now,
Two question with your 7.
okay.
I got 2 on the side.
No, I forgot about it. No, I need to. I was gonna do it yesterday. You're right.
Cheryl, tonight. Oh, some of them are real quick, you're right. A couple of them.
It's on the packet, so.
You answer workshop. Okay. Welcome to the City of Montgomery City Council Workshop meeting for March 24th, 2025, starting at 6 p.m. With that, I'd like to call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you wouldn't mind standing with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, I did not receive anything for public comments for the public forum, so we'll move right into the workshop agenda. All workshop items on this agenda are for discussion only, no action will be taken. Number 3 on the agenda, for presentation update by VCS Capital Group on the proposed new multifamily and mixed-use commercial development on 32 acres southeast of the intersection at CD Stewart Drive and Buffalo Springs Drive and north of Eva Street, in discussion of proposed MOU. With that, Chris, will you guys stand, or will VCS want to go first?
So let me just kind of point out what's handed out in front of y'all, so you'll have a point, and then just give it over to the DCS guys to walk through the changes and that. So there's a couple documents in front of you. First one is the latest draft of the MOU red line, just so you have it for reference. The second item is this table here. So this is based on their projected numbers. What are the costs of public improvements? What are their sales tax projected at the 2-3 year mark? How that breaks down, that 2 cents, how it breaks down to what the dollars are, and then the bottom one is reimbursement. So this is done, the recommendation is more of a fact sheet to have in front of you. Is that as it's pulled up? So as we go through scenarios, you can plug it in, those updated numbers. And then the last one, or last 2, are just 2 exhibits that show the roadway improvements that are being discussed and the utility services being discussed for reference. So with that, I'll kick it over to Jeff and DCS guys, and they will go over kind of updated plans.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Good evening.
Okay, so we were here last
what we're going to be talking about tonight. We had a hard stack overlay, made a detention. It didn't shrink too much. I know last week it looked massive. It still looks pretty big, but one of the engineers want Jonathan to speak to this more if needed or wanted. But this is what we're expecting TxDOT to require from a detention capacity standpoint. So again, high level multifamily on the order, plus or minus 13 to 15 acres. Academy, so retail next to it, on the northern pads out front, focusing on restaurants and doing sales tax. To that point, what we're asking for is, some sort of 380 type of realisticity where we as a developer go in and put in all the infrastructure, build the buildings, et cetera, all on our dime. And what we're asking for is a percentage of those dollars that we spend back, only when we earn those through the accretive ad valorem sales tax that our development produces. And so we're thankful that you guys continue to meet with us. It feels like we have some tailwind in terms of everybody wanting to see this project through. And it's now just going down, hey, how do we make the math work and how do we figure it out? I can answer your questions or you can go into more detail if you like. I just don't want to be redundant.
Jack, I can't tell, where is the detention pond on that?
Those two big things on the right.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
I was like, is that the hotel
No, that's
property?
Yeah, it was a hotel property.
Okay,
Yeah, the hotel property goes away,
okay.
unfortunately.
And you revised this because TCEQ was mentioned and that would hold it up about 3 years, so it's like, okay, to go in a different direction, to not have to go through that, then that means that they would have to be on-site detention, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
So, on top of that, we're closing now on the property.
Okay.
April 15th. The seller said, hey, it's going to take too long. And so, not only that, it would require an office through a property we will know, which I don't think we're going to get.
Yeah.
So, this is
This is it?
so here we are.
Okay.
But we were probably going to do today. This is what it looks like.
How many square feet is that academy? Is that 65?
5,000 square feet.
I don't know. Academy,
The prototype is 55,000 square feet. They do some larger, 62,500. So they considered that when they ran their cannibalization study in Willis. So they're going south of AGB and Willis along that 45. So they're kind of doing the triangle of Willis, Montgomery. It came back, obviously cannibalizing a little bit, but they still project this.
Say not a whole lot, I don't think.
So,
So they're going to be south of HEB, you said?
correct. They're doing the deal with that same developer for Dallas.
Moran Ranch.
Say it again.
It would have been called Moran Ranch back in my day.
That was their deal, that was the name.
Yeah.
So do you have an agreement with the county to build in there?
We have a letter of intent. So the world, I've been in the retail business since college, for going on 16 years. And so the way these deals progress is you start talking verbally and then you start getting a letter of intent going. With some tenants, a letter of intent means nothing because they'll throw out 15 of them and one or two deals. With Academy, it means a lot. Their broker has been in this business for 30 years. We've done a lot together. And he said this deal is as good as done. That's related to their approvals because they got their sales projection back, they got their cannibalization back. So no, we don't assign lease. This would be a lease we're going to build with them. But we wouldn't even be in a position to sign it until we know that the deal actually works. So, but I can say with confidence that, assuming we just done a lot like that, we can make this deal contingent upon that.
Okay, well, that's great. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball because I had another proposal, but if you think Academy's going to be good, going forward, I don't have a problem with
They
it.
want to get this fully committee approved in April.
Yeah.
So they're ready to go with that.
Well, a couple of us here, we like Shields, and we'd like to see one down here, but from what we understand, we don't have enough population density to.
What is it?
A Shields, it's a
Shield is an amazing product. And I've been in their store a few times up in Frisco. It's actually, it's the colony up there, DFW. It's incredible, but we don't know.
We don't have, the density.
Yeah.
So just so I'm understanding this, so you note the linear utilities, the roadway and the impact fees, their totals, the potential reimbursement, and you're stating that for the utilities and roadway, utilities being reimbursed at 50% and the roadway being at 100%, that the total development cost that you would want the city to reimburse you is 1.995, 100?
This is, I think that's the scenario that the GA had in y'all's packet, as assuming it's an example.
So for,
That's
That's what this is. What we have.
that's not for us.
This is,
Yeah, the sheet is in front of you, so this was based on,
that's what I was thinking.
the first column is the total cost, so your linear utilities, roadway, and impact fees, those total 3.083.
Okay,
Based on the previous council conversations that we've had, we plugged in this potential reimbursement percentage.
okay,
So that was 50% on the linear, 100% on the roadway, and nothing on the impact fees.
Yep.
So that's that one.
Yeah, because if you'd sent, I'd agree with this, right?
I would agree with this.
So this is where it gets good, is what we're asking for.
Jack,
Yeah, that's a fair deal, right?
exactly.
That's what?
That's a
This
good
is a fair
deal.
deal.
That is.
Yes.
But that's not what they're asking for.
So, at the end of the day, we cut down to, I said this last week, Casey, because it is, what can we, how do we get net 20 IRR to our investors? And we're just shy of that with the current numbers. I'm more than happy to get the Excel model with variables side, and we're not making that up. And so that's the tricky part. We are asking for more money than the core local public infrastructure in order to get the academy deal done. And we are closing on the land, so we're making that bet. We're going to own the land in 3 weeks or 2.5 weeks now. But in order for us to move forward with the academy deal, we're going to need $4 million one way or the other. I don't know how we see it cap. But that's what that's our.
So then where would the other 2 million go? If you need 4 million.
Exactly.
Well, we've got to break out your total cost infrastructure. If you look at the top right of that page 2, you'll see the.
Where are you at? Where you at?
Oh, I'm sorry. So,
On this page you just handed out. Okay, I was on the WGA page.
sorry about that.
Okay, so total cost, city infrastructure, on-site detention, 6.6. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah, so what we're doing, so there's give and take, right? Like we got Philip to reduce his purchase price because of the on-site detention. But it's not a total net win. We lose 7 acres plus or minus, right?
So-
6.38 acres.
We talked about that the other night. I'm not the engineer that Ryan is, but that is an enormous amount of
I
protection.
agree. You want to talk?
Yeah, sure. So, we didn't have a lot of time, but we sat down on Friday, took a look at everything. So Tax Files got maps, they basically have us design. Those maps were done in the last 105 Friday was done. One thing that we want to do is coordinate with the petition project that are coming in next, potentially Montgomery Rail, that they covers that corridor, it's just something further west, but to see if they have other assumptions of flow they can take on. We can't exceed any flow they designed to take on from like 2008. Fortunately, we've had changes in the criteria that we've got to design to, so we can have to detain down to the rate that they assumed they were taking on in 2008, even though they've had new criteria that's come out that has increased flow. So it's almost like we're double dipping and over detaining a little bit in a sense. Ryan comes from a background, he's an aviation consultant. I did call him just to kind of see what his thoughts are opinion on. When you're dealing with large subject tracts, hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, you can do master plan drainage and look at it in a different perspective than when we go and submit this to TechSide. It's a commercial with a driveway. They look at it very differently, not regionally, and so they can only take on what their infrastructure takes on. So for our subject, we're showing that we're going to be at a 0.8 acre per acre detention rate for 32 acres, the 6 acres with topography. I think we did it like 8 or 9 feet deep, giving room to a lot of topography as it goes down for grading transitions. We're showing that we're going to need about 6 to 6.5. So that's based on a handful of hours being put into it.
How much is that retention pond again?
669.
Six and a half
That's
acres.
what we think that we're going to end up being at now. There's a lot of value engineering and potential changes that we can try to tweak models, but TechSide criteria is very
we'll decrease the city portion of the ask by, because that would be a win for us as well.
But I don't know that we can sit up here, and honestly, I would never say, well, decrease that to 4.
Yeah, we have to pencil it.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, like, that's, of course, if it's gonna be lower, I mean, smaller, then
Well,
that's.
that's what's right now. Just, you know, we
Yeah.
brought it as a team and trying to bring it.
If it didn't go to tech stop, it would be substantially smaller. Tech stop is just a very small.
And then the retaining walls as well. So we're putting in some, around 6 feet of retaining wall height along 105. In order to get, you know, speak to that, but it's about 6 feet, right, retaining wall.
Yeah, I mean, the intersection is the lowest point
Right.
here. And so for us to be able to force water backwards, we want to be able to elevate slightly up across here, here. So we'll allow some of the water to bypass the detention, but we have to elevate a large portion of this to get the drainage back. We can try to send what we can to tech stop, we're talking about sending any commercial flow, get it over restrict on the upstream side. And commercial development, if it's real quick on getting a high amount of flow with a very small amount of area. So we're very limited of what we can actually bypass. So I'm thinking a portion of this can bypass straight to tech stop, lift all this, force the water back. And then this detention will actually serve the multi-family tract by itself, and that'll drain directly to Buffalo Springs. It'll still ultimately get to tech stop, but it still has to be in our,
Will it go down Buffalo Springs or cross Buffalo Springs and then go
down
down?
to Buffalo
Okay.
Springs, and it actually hit this.
Because at first we were talking about crossing over to go back to Rampy Pond, but that's not,
Yeah.
that would be now engineered to go straight to 105.
Because Texas has a crossover here.
Yep.
So we're going to be subject to a certain amount of flow to this crossover, and a certain amount of flow goes to this crossover here, which will lead to Stewart, because this goes across 105 and back to Stewart.
Now that culvert, we just put that in, is it big enough?
It was the same size as the text dot, so it wasn't upsized, it was sized for what text dot used for the roadside drainage.
And we're subject to whatever they don't. Now, there's trace of their leaves, the stable road, or also keep it designed to go in the text right away in Destin. So there are things that like we don't look into, but that's a lot harder to solve the text dot. Because all this stuff captured on site goes straight to Stewart.
Basically, I want to work, you can go alongside us and help us with text dot. I mean,
Good luck with that.
Increase the detention is a win-win. And I'd like to also add, we are in talks with the adjacent tract. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we're going to try to go acquire
To east or west?
the western 6.5 acres.
Yep.
Kind of square off our frontage. I think it makes sense to incorporate it in our master plan. We'll see. But I just wanted to mention that. Our goal is to acquire that. And then we were already talking to Philip about, you know, the remaining 112 acres. Again, that is too early to get excited about, but if we had it our own way, we would be developing this entire reserve from Lone Star Parkway all the way to CPC.
I asked this question a couple of weeks ago. I still don't understand why the Rampy Lake parcel is defined in the memorandum of understanding. What do we need that in there for? It's a 115 acre tract, and it's supposed to be on the other side of the street, and I don't understand why it's in the memorandum of understanding on the very first page.
I think at one point, and I would have to go back and look, so Rampy Lake parcel was being referred to regarding drainage in terms of the use of the pond, and it could have gotten redlined out, that definition is no longer needed, especially now they're not going that direction. You know, this was really written kind of at the time where the first thought was going to Rampy Lake.
So this right now is off, is just off.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely change, I mean, you know, the point of trying to get through this, to modify this document to bring it back to you. So, yeah, I mean, you know, this memorandum of understanding is, you know, it talks about,
Turkey Lake is currently mentioned on page 3 of the draft.
page 3, section 5. City understands the subject tract for Rampy Lake parcel or claim to drainage of Rampy Lake with a drainage study, based on the information right now, likely that full section can go away, and therefore the reference Rampy Lake can go away, but
if you just go by the 112, then you just put it all together.
I know, we got 3 weeks.
Just write a check. And then you won't have to worry about the two detention funds. No.
Well, that's another piece is the timing, right? Like we're taking on a big risk for our company to come buy this track in 3 weeks. And,
Understood.
we're doing that because the relationship was built as far as you guys and know that, hey, we'll figure out a solution. Our hope is that we can get that done tonight, so we get the academy in for approval in April. And as quickly as we can get TxDOT to give us permits, because that's going to be the lead item, detention and the we're seeing that happen a little quicker. It was a 9-month lead time, now we're seeing it happen in like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's put a lot of pressure on them, but drainage is always the hardest
Yeah.
area to get approval, but, you know, they're speeding up the review timeline, and new portal they've gotten used to, it's a little bit more efficient, so, you know, they look at the traffic studies and things, but we'll be able to try to, we've got to be fast with these kind of things.
Can I get you to come to the microphone, please?
Uh-oh, Jonathan, you're in trouble. I mean, I think that, you know, with the percentage presented, and I think it's kind of hard to swallow, and I don't think the taxpayers should pay more money, $4 million, when we don't know where that's going to go to. And it's hard to look at your neighbor in the face and say, well, we gave them this money, but we know where half of it went, we don't know where the other half went.
Well, we're showing you where it went. You know, it's going into detention, retaining walls.
Well, yeah.
And we're showing a 3-year payback. And so the alternative is nothing. You know, we buy this land, we hold it, and nothing happens.
So when you go with your paybacks and stuff, you really need to use WGA's numbers because, or at least the way that they do it with their formulas. Because the way that it is split up, you can't just, oh, we get 2%, it's going to be paid back. That's not how it works, right? So when I tell you that we're close to 12 years based off of the city's half paying that back, we're like real close, right? Because we don't get all those other percentages.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that. We didn't have all the breakdown. I got you.
And so that's when I look at it and go, okay, MEDC says, no, they don't want to kick in, right? So that's out. Another 0.5% is already out by ordinance to buy down taxes. And then the other 0.25% for the CCPD is out. So we have 1% gone, we have 1% left.
Right.
EDC's out.
Well, if they
No,
choose to be out,
if
if they
they choose.
choose, right? So we can't make that decision for them here.
No.
So we have 1% that we can play with.
And you're saying that 1% would be the 666 number?
No, that would be total.
No?
No, our 1% is a 6.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was looking at. Okay, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah,
Okay.
$660.
I just want to make sure I was looking at the right thing.
So when you
Okay.
start looking at, payback of four and some odd million, or more than that, because I'm still confused here of the
So
piece.
on this sheet, so this is based on a potential payback of the $2 million, 1.995. And that bottom table, you'll see in column 1 is if it's 50% of the city's 1 cent.
Okay.
That would be 6 years.
Right.
If it's 100% of the city share, that's 3 years.
Got it.
50/50, 4.7, 100, 2.8.
So this is the
Okay.
city's proposal, and this is their proposal, right? And they're very, very far apart. So that's where we have to come to somewhere in the middle. Because I'm telling you right now, I won't vote for 4 million. I won't do it. Because that's 100% repayment of impact fees, that's 100% repayment of all the infrastructure. I mean, at some point, guys, we should just develop it and then, right? I mean, if we're paying you back almost 100%, then why don't we develop it?
So what would be the payback, assuming, so if we, at the 4 million, at 100%, then the payback would be double that?
So yeah, just using round numbers.
So 6 years.
At 50% reimbursement would be 12 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So say that again,
50%
Catherine?
reimbursement is
50.
12 years, just the city share.
That's, yeah, essentially, this is just sales tax. Again, kind of the
Right.
discussion, the feedback that we've gotten from y'all previously is this
Right.
is only sales tax on this.
Yep, so it's self-sustaining, correct?
Yeah.
I like that.
So this is all open for discussion, and we're not asking for just sales tax. This could be a portion of ad valorem tax as well. So, and the duration we're also open to that. If it's better for the city to be longer, or if it's better for the city to be shorter, that's fine. It's just coming to an agreement on this total, the reimbursement that we get over that duration.
In case we get backloaded, like I was saying last week, you know, if we want the city's in like, hey, we want dollars today. Let's figure out how to backload it, or, you know, you guys get more of it up front. We get paid back later.
No. So for us, obviously, for the investors, how we make money is getting them their money back as fast as possible. And the longer you stretch that out, the less that $4 million is worth to us, which is harder for us to make money on the deal. But if it takes a little bit longer, if that's better for the city, we're willing to do that. Because what we've done today is based on a 10-year period.
And I was gonna say, so what's that longer look like then?
At least in my models, but it's, you know, it's so preliminary up in the air. Discussing with y'all, it's just a flat fee over that time, so the percentages haven't changed over that duration. We're just waiting on this discussion right now.
Is this where you enter?
I sure can.
Yes. Please
I would
do.
also like to say, I've been wanting this breakdown of the 2%, at no point did we ever think that it would be 2% to DCS over a duration of time. I know y'all have some portion of that to play with, but I didn't know how much it would be until right now. This is us seeing the WGA projection for the first time.
Please come to the podium, Ms. Finance Director Mary Ann Carl.
Are we gonna move on to item number 2?
Well, is this cover, is this crossover?
So-
Okay, because I saw what you had, but, okay.
Yeah, it
So let's go ahead and, I mean, we're not, I think we could talk about both of them because they're both going to talk about, they're about the same thing.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so I provided, can you bring up the slide, please? Mayor, would you like to read item number 4 so we can have it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, say it again. Just
Can you read
read.
item
Oh, yeah, I will. Maybe. For presentation update by Finance Director Mary Ann Carl on Chapter 380 agreements.
All right, so y'all have a copy of this slide deck in front of you, and basically what I'm going to go over with you tonight is kind of the basics of Chapter 380s as it pertains to the city here, the funding sources, our current agreements, sales tax breakdown, and considerations. All right, so for the basics, Chapter 380, which most of you know, incentives designed to promote economic development such as commercial and retail projects by way of loans and grants for city funds or services at little or no cost to the city. So that comes straight from the comptroller's office. That is outlining what a 380 is. When you look at the project and need specific, okay, so they have to be project and need specific with a common shared element. And those common shared elements include a public purpose, quantifiable goals including jobs created, increased sales tax and or property tax value, and then a defined grant rebate or reimbursement amount and schedule. Okay, so these are just things to keep in the back of your mind as you look forward as to what you may need. The other thing we have to think about is the city ordinance that pertains to Chapter 380s, and that's Ordinance 2007-13. And underneath that ordinance, it outlines qualifications. So the qualifications, the first qualification is it's retail and commercial development, office space and professional buildings, and residential development projects. On to the next slide, we'll talk about part 2. Funds may only be used to provide assistance for construction, maintenance, and/or development of city infrastructure, including but not limited to construction of water and sewer line extensions and extensions of other utilities and related costs such as engineering and offset any grant, loan, or reimbursement awarded by the city. I don't think we have any problem with part three. Under our ordinance, eligible applicants would be the property owners or the tenants. Right there. And then the selection criteria includes one or more of the following: job creation, financial viability, provisions of public or visitor parking, sales per square foot ratio, ability to attract other retailers to the city, and uniqueness of the project to the city. So I think we fit all those parameters.
So everything you've said, I think we've checked a box.
Correct.
Okay, yes.
I think
making sure.
what I would only refer back to is the idea of the, on slide 7, under number 2.
Yep.
The funds may only be used to provide assistance for construction, maintenance, and/or the development of city infrastructure.
So would that be in regards to their on-site detention?
That would be a question. Is that considered city
Potential
infrastructure?
detention is considered.
Yeah, the city has not been accepting on-site detention bonds in the development.
As with.
We haven't accepted it, because I don't remember you being presented.
When I say accepted, it's accept into your responsibility.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was just like,
All single family.
wait a minute.
Yes, we have the, don't talk about commercial.
Those detention ponds are maintained by the mine. Your commercial detention,
Is where,
I understand. I'm giving examples of the other kind of quote unquote public ponds.
Yeah.
Your city does not maintain any public
yeah,
detention ponds.
right, nor should we, yeah, okay.
No, and that's my whole hang up in this deal.
All right. On to slide 11, the funding sources. We're in agreement here. We've got sales tax collection in the defined project area. Increased ad valorem taxes in a defined project area. I will point out that it is your M&O portion only. You cannot give away your debt service portion. And then impact fees assessed in the defined project area. Those would all be eligible funding sources. And then what you ask for is kind of a recap of what our current agreements are. So the next section is going to go over those current agreements. So Hills of Town Creek, which was established back in 2012. It has a $400,000 maximum reimbursement. It has a 15-year term that expires in 2027. Underneath this, we pay ad valorem tax revenue, the increase over the pre-development tax revenue, and impact fees were eligible here as well. We anticipate to pay this one off in this fiscal year. Estates of Neolago was established in 2017. This was a $100,000 maximum reimbursement. It is a 12-year term that expires in 2029. It is made up of ad valorem tax revenue, increase over the pre-development tax revenue, and impact fees. And it's M&O only. There has not been a payout on that. I'm not 100% sure on that. I can tell you from reading the agreement, the onus for reimbursement comes from the developer, and there are a series of requirements that need to be met before that reimbursement request can be presented. And so imagine we're sitting in that 12-year period waiting to see if all of those boxes get to be checked off.
They hadn't even done anything. I think they just built a house and finished it recently, but they're
So
kind
yeah,
of staggered.
the Lone Star bed extension, which did happen. So the infrastructure that was a part of that agreement happens. It's just all of those other pieces that make it eligible for the reimbursement. The Milestone Kroger project, this one was established in 2017. It is a maximum reimbursement amount of $5,636,398. It is a 2. This is made up of sales tax and ad valorem. We pay 100% of the ad valorem tax for that parcel, which is very large, you may recall, that whole section. 55% of the city's 1 cent, and 100% of the MEDC sales tax. There is $3.44 million remaining as of January 1, 2025.
This is not a gotcha, but do you know what we give on a annual basis to them?
Well, we can do the math
So
on
it
it.
has increased because if you recall in the beginning, there was like 2 parcels.
Yeah,
We added this last year,
Right.
there was a little bit bigger jump. So it totally depends on, sales tax brought in. If
Sure.
you recall this last year, one of the things that we looked at was the actual sales tax, or no, ad valorem tax collected by the city. This agreement, the way that it had been being paid out, was based on a calculation on the appraised value and what that calculated tax levy would be, regardless of whether or not the city collected that levy. So we pulled the data from the tax office to be able to get a correct number. And in doing so, one of the pieces that was discovered is that, of course, when you just take that appraised value, it doesn't take into account the personal property in these businesses. The outline of this agreement specifically says all property tax, which would include that. So we made a true-up payment this year, and we are on track to be able to have that solid data moving forward. I anticipate, based on the current projections of what's happening, that we will probably get to the 15 years on this agreement.
Okay.
Any other questions on that one? Okay. The Shops at Montgomery, this one was established in 2019. Maximum reimbursement is $1,125,000. It is a 10-year term that expires in 2029. It is made up of 25% of total sales tax collected, which is broken down as a $0.25 from the city and a $0.25 from MDC. We have $881,798 remaining under this agreement. We have had some businesses added this last year that are inside that footprint, but we expect that this agreement will go the full 10 years. Okay. And then the newest agreement on here is the Home Depot, which was established in 2024. The maximum reimbursement, you may recall, this was figured in the project that exceeded the $750,000. So Home Depot said, they're the first $750,000 they're covering. Whatever exceeded that up to the cap of $2 million for those 2 projects. The totals have come back, and the maximum reimbursement would be $512,278.92. This is an open-ended term. So it will go until it is paid.
And when do you expect that?
This agreement is 50% of total sales tax collected. And what that means is that the city is giving back the full penny that we have until this agreement is met. So looking at the totals, the number of agreements we have right now is 5. The reimbursement cap is $7,773,676.92. The money is coming from ad valorem on 3 of these agreements, city sales tax affects 3 of these agreements, and MEDC sales tax affects 2 of them.
So we've got sales tax data from Home Depot for 6 months, right? Yeah. From
Not yet.
September to March? Oh, yeah, we'll get it next month.
They
Yeah.
opened in October.
Yeah.
In that particular agreement, and again, most of these are this way, the onus is typically on the developer to be able to provide you the data that is required in order to be able to get money back on these 3 A's. Gets a little bit tricky when you're talking about ad valorem because the developers don't necessarily have access to that data the way that we would have access to that data. Also compounded a little bit more by the 2 agreements, like the shops and the Kroger agreement, that impact sales tax from businesses that are not their business. And again, they don't have access to those numbers the way that we would have access to those numbers. In the case of Home Depot, the reimbursement, the onus is 100% on Home Depot to submit their sales tax reports to us and request that back. And that, in turn, takes into consideration the fact that it is your local Home Depot, not any outside orders or anything else that may be impacting that. So it's actual receipts at the store. The data that we get doesn't get that granular. So while while we can see, and you can see in your monthly reports that Home Depot is, up in your top contributors to sales tax, we don't see that granular detail based on what they're submitting at the store level and what's being submitted as a whole.
Like the online stuff that we used to get before the stores here. Gotcha.
Right. So we won't know kind of where we sit on that until we get that first report from Home Depot. And in looking at that, I would have to go back and look. I don't recall what the trigger date was. The certificate of occupancy, which was issued October 21st of 2024. And so I think we're talking about 1 year from that date, and then I believe they have 60 days to submit that request to us from that 1 year. So next December, or this December, December 25th.
And then we use their projections based off of what their normal stores will do. If we come back 16 months, 18 months, something like that?
See, that's what we were looking at based on going on our projections.
Yeah.
I don't know that we've hit
Because I'm not able to see the granular data of what is specifically local and what is
Sure.
outside influences, we won't know until we get that actual sales tax report from them.
Once we get that initial sales tax report, you're saying in December,
I expect people to try December.
is there any way after that where we don't get hit with one big bill at a time? Instead, because it looks like, sounds to me like when they just submit it in December, we're going to have a big payment to make.
And we will. And there is a way for us to do that differently. The way that the agreement is structured, it is an annual payment.
Annual, so we have to do it annually.
What is the advantage or disadvantage? I don't understand the open-ended term. I always thought we had terms on those.
We did open-ended on that one because that's all they could agree to. They wanted that full 5, whatever we borrowed from them back. That's one.
So
Understand now,
We're going to
yes.
get them the entire amount, however long that might take that to do. But based on our projections, it looks like it would be 16 to 18 months. That it would be.
Okay. But that was a Home Depot demand.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they wanted 100% of whatever they borrowed us to do to finish
I don't
the
remember
road.
that, yeah.
Right. And it was above and beyond, so you may recall, I'm sure you all recall, it has to do with the roadway improvements above those springs and
Yep.
the traffic signal above those springs in 105. And it was anything above the 750,000, so they agreed they would pay 750,000 towards that project.
Yeah.
And then the cap was 2 million, and the project came in way less than that.
Yeah.
So we're not paying for even 50% of what that infrastructure
Yeah, they didn't ask for impact fees or anything like that. They just wanted the money back that we borrowed to finish building the road.
And Any other questions on those specific
Interest only.
agreements?
Great job.
Yes,
Thank you for that very much. Appreciate it.
Slide number 19 is your sales tax breakdown. This is part of what you all were referring to. So city gets, we have 2 cents, you all know. The city keeps 1 cent. That goes into our general fund. It is used for general city operations. A half a cent goes to property tax reduction. We can't touch that. That was put into place by the voters years ago. The other half a cent is, as of January 1st this year, is divided between the 2 component units of the city, one being the MEDC, the other one being the crime control prevention district. Of that, the only portion that could potentially be used in these agreements would be what the MEDC has. CCPD does not have the ability to participate in 380s, and so the most that would be available from the city's portion, and including the MEDC, would be 1.25 of the 2 cents. Any questions on that?
So a portion of MED's money that they receive is going to pay off the Milestone Clover project?
Right. So
Yes.
the way that that agreement is written is that they currently get a quarter of a cent. And so we will continue to give a quarter of a cent. It is outlined in the agreement as to specifically how much that was. It wasn't just defined as half of the MEDC's portion. It was defined as the quarter. I have had conversations with legal about that, so, but yeah, that's where we're,
So that's the shops gets a quarter cent, but the MEDC is giving up 100% at the Kroger. That's what it says. So 100% of MEDC sales tax at Kroger. So even though we cut it in half, does that make a difference?
oh, I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you were talking about the hills.
On the Kroger one, they're going to continue to get the 100% of what is
On the original agreement, so they get a full 50
They're going to get that full.
half cent then.
They only get a quarter, because EDC only gets a quarter of a cent now.
Okay, so it did adjust the contract?
100% of the MEDC sales tax. So at this point, the MEDC sales tax has been reduced, but they'll still get 100% of that.
Gotcha.
On the shops, it specifically outlines it as 1/4
Quarter cent.
which now becomes
100%, yeah.
sales tax in that area.
Got it.
This is very good.
Yes,
Yeah,
very
thank you, thank you.
Well, I hope it helps.
No, it does very much. You asked for it.
Yeah.
Direct reminder on. Internally, we go through the same. So considerations. Obviously, would be types of projects. We talked about that. That is outlined by our ordinance. Okay? Of course, as you all know, new businesses create new dollars, right? It creates new dollars for sales tax, create new property tax dollars, but there's some things to think about when you're thinking about these new businesses coming and when you enter into these 380 agreements and getting it back, right? Clearly, if they don't develop, you don't have the expense, which Casey has pointed out, right? There are several things to think about. One of them is the sales tax tipping point. I've talked with some of you about this and the fact that your community has kind of a finite number of sales tax dollars. Now, of course, you're going to draw from other resources and you bring in more people and that's going to grow as time goes on. But we have been so lucky to watch our sales tax dollars going up and up and up and up and up. And I challenge you to think about it this way. As a family, as an individual who lives here in Montgomery, if that individual budgets to go out for dinner 2 nights a week, it doesn't matter how many restaurants you give them, they are still going out 2 nights a week. It just means they are spreading their dollars amongst different restaurants. So I want you just to think about that as you move forward, because we have been so lucky in watching the sales tax numbers just grow and grow and grow. And as you grow, that we're going to have a period of that, but we've got to be aware that at some point
It will
that
plateau.
backs off. Okay?
I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what percentage of our city is developed or not developed, I guess is the bigger question to say, okay, there's a 40%, so 40% is developed and there's 60% wide open canvas, so the tipping point we're out for a little bit, or just?
So I ran some numbers just based off of the view, the acreage, and what kind of the way we use it. Montgomery tops out at about 10,000 population. I mean, we're burst at the seams, so that's what you can look at, about 10,000 people.
Not a long way from that.
But we're,
Right, but I'm also looking at the canvas too. Oh, that's okay, that part is that, but I'm looking at the canvas, like, as a city, how much are we developed versus not developed? That's the bigger question.
I would say that the amount of home growth that's happening.
1,000%.
In this regional intersection.
1,000%. Yeah, no, 9,000 people, not the people to support these businesses, absolutely
our
not.
commercial footprint's like, you know.
I just wanted to know, like, have we developed 70% of the city? Because that means we're getting closer to that tipping point. Have we developed 25? That's the question. Do you know, Chris, about ish? A third?
Let me add these up, because I can't do all this math in my head. We have it broken down by zoning district, what is developed,
Yeah.
what is developing, and what is total. So give me-
Because, yeah, no, like, if we were like at 70%, then that's definitely we need to like, well, let's talk about this. But if we're, I mean, I don't know where that breaking point is, but it's certainly,
And again, it's not necessarily
A consideration.
something that you need to be thinking in relationship to this. I'm
No,
just providing the
just
big
curious.
overall picture of
Yeah.
380s and moving forward.
yeah.
The other thing that
Now that
I
we're doing them correctly.
want to point out is the fact that when you bring in these, whether it's businesses, homes, whatever, and those revenues that you are getting, whether it be from ad valorem or sales tax dollars, that money, as you see with how we split up the sales tax and our ad valorem is M&O and our debt service, you have increased city resources. And so if you are relying on, businesses that are bringing in sales tax and you've got more people, you were talking about more people in your city, potentially more need for police resources.
More support, that's right.
More infrastructure,
works, yeah.
not just in that area, but all the way around. And so there are other things to consider. So when you give that all away, you are then putting that onus someplace else within the city's budget to take care of those increased needs.
Right.
So, between staff and the city engineers, we are all in favor of providing developers with incentives to bring these things to the city, great things for us. That isn't it at all. We just want to be really aware of how much we're doing and also looking at those terms. Like as you saw tonight, some of these 15-year agreements, they're going to be in them 15 years. And so that's, those are just the kind of things to think about. And it's, tried to give you like the big picture of all of them. If you have any other questions, please got that number.
Very good job, Mary.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mary Ann.
So was that public infrastructure reimbursement, so the 5.6 million?
Yes, it was the road.
For, yeah, 500,000.
Kroger.
Kroger
Kroger, Mary Gardner Drive, utilities on Gardner Drive, and then the water and sewer wrapping around Lone Star Parkway and over to Butler.
That was all, that was 5.6 million was all.
I don't have that exact number, we have to pull that up, but that was, there was a lot
It was.
of
Yeah.
So I think, for us, what we can offer is a project that's going to generate significantly higher sales tax than what we've seen based on the reimbursement breakdown that I saw in the world, and agree to shorter timelines, 10-year deal. You look at that Kroger deal, I think they've been reimbursed roughly $2 million based on those numbers. And I don't know how long they've been open, but I think it's plus or minus 8 years.
The
So they just aren't generating that much sales tax. We're going to generate a significant amount of sales tax. If we don't, we're not going to get reimbursed. We're asking you to reimburse quickly, and then look at what that's going to do once we get paid back from the city long term. Yes, you only get 1%, but 25 basis points goes to the people who reduce sales and reduce taxes. Another 25 basis points goes to the police department and the fire department. These are amenities for your constituents. So we are purely asking for what we need to make the numbers work today. We have a development ready to go today. We get it. This is a huge action. We're asking you to do a lot. So I think everything that y'all are saying is fair.
And I just looked at the timeline, like, so we've got 2 that expire in 2029 and 1 that expires in 2032. And then the rest of Home Depot's 515, there's no end, and then we have Hills falling off this year. And you're saying 16 years? 10-year deal?
If we don't perform, we are going to get paid back.
2035, okay. I mean,
I think the fact of having an academy here, I really believe that specifically like Home Depot, I go by there and see that there's always full parking lots. And I know that it's not always the residents in there, so I see the advantage of having those academy Home Depots because it's going to draw people instead of turning, as they go out of Walden Road, instead of turning left, they're going to turn right.
Absolutely.
and then they buy, not only buy there, but they buy their lunch or dinner and then their gas
Yes.
here too, so they're dropping those dollars in. And we haven't factored in the HEB effect, right? And so that's coming late
And I realize
2026.
that it causes a lot of issues for us financially about, infrastructure. But I definitely believe that this is a project that will be a 20-year good thing for us.
We're going to immediately move Texas Roadhouse from Addison into
See, and I think that's huge too. That's ginormous.
I guarantee you from Navasota coming back east to, if there's an academy here, very much like there's a Home Depot, and there's a bunch of people that I know that they go there, so excited that they can come to Mankato.
Well, 1774 is building out, I don't know the last time you've been over there, but there's thousands of homes. And for them to have to go through Magnolia, to go down 1488, to go to the HEB, to go to the Home Depot, or to the Academy, coming this way is going to be, I foresee we driving a lot of that. Traffic and tax dollars.
I do too, because one of the
100%.
employees for Johnson that's working on that project, he comes back through Montgomery because he doesn't want to go the other way.
That's right. There's going to be a lot less
So I
lights,
see
believe it or
see
not.
what y'all are bringing,
Yeah.
and I like it very much. I just want it to work for
I
us.
agree. I just don't, yes. I just want to make sure it's financially feasible.
Chris is going to have good numbers on the development side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back in September, so you have roughly 43% based on your zoning district.
Yep.
43% undeveloped in your commercial zone. So that doesn't include any of these properties or anything that's happened since September or come to the September. And then your PD zone, you have about 48% undeveloped. Now, PD, a lot of that's going to get used for single family, so that's not all commercial, but where you could have commercial developments, let's call it 50%.
It's 48%, you said?
48% in the PD, and back in September was undeveloped, and 43% back in September under commercial zone. Okay.
I was trying to just come up with how many homes that we're personally working on in the area. Inside the city is quite a bit. We've got 3 or 4 subdivisions with you guys, but we also got one just across from here. We've been, it's just outside your city limits. That'll be another 1,000 homes. Yeah, so that'd be another 1,000 homes. So as you bring commercial and you need those rooftops to be able to generate more and more sales tax. So if Kroger or Home Depot or Academy's not performing initially as those homes, just help increase the
Well, what I think is fascinating too is majority of the phone pings at this Walmart, not in our city limits, comes from east of 45 in Conroe. They're coming this way. If they're coming this way, you give them an opportunity to come this way to do your academy and your grocery shopping because it's close to one another, and then they can head home. And Kroger did a study, and it had 85,000 unique pings over a month time period, and most of them were out toward Richards and that area too. So again, to the point of it's people that are around here that will be coming here, and with that head count increasing with the amount of neighborhoods coming, and then the other potential commercial coming, I think we're sitting on a
The other one too is the
You want to sit down and go, I don't want to undermine the way you guys have. I mean, look,
It's a great opportunity.
Whether it's us today, somebody else tomorrow, or us tomorrow. The site, this commercial reserve is the best undeveloped commercial reserve in our opinion in the city, based on where it's situated.
I agree.
Yeah.
We're just trying to present what we can do today.
Understand.
And so I don't want to my plan. And the reality is the way that these retailers look, it's amazing. Academy will do another deal for another. You look what they're already doing with Willis and Conroe. So you're going to get people trading from all other sorts of other cities. And we'll never get what you guys have just because of the way the spacing works. You're going to have to go about 10 to 15 miles.
Yeah, the other thing is too, on west of 297 coming west, there's a lot of people that are refused because of construction to go back east. They come back this way, yeah.
And all of that is wonderful. And you know,
That's how they like going too. You know, even though they're only at 78 and 1488, they're going all the way down to 249.
Yes.
They don't want to have 45.
They don't want to hassle with everything else, yes, I understand that.
I mean, I'm in favor of what y'all are doing. I just want to make sure financially we're fiscally responsible and do right by that. And appreciate all of your effort.
I think what I would focus on, and I know I'm biased, obviously I'm pushing to get this done so we can move forward, is the quick pay, the quick comments, 10-year deal. And look at the amount of sales tax it's going to create. Look at it from, I want to look at it generational type deal, but look at it from 20 years ago. So, okay, if these guys don't do what they're doing, they're not going to get reimbursed, but it still gets us this. That's
Right.
These guys get paid back in 6 years, and we're flipping $1 million fine.
Right.
No one involved's doing that. We're taking it all the risk. We're not asking you guys to give us a loan. We're going to go put it all in. We're asking for a percentage of that. And I know it's a big ask. It is a big ask. But that's what we need today to get it up. And we're going to close this land, and we're going to work this deal with you guys. We're going to figure it out. We're not going to do something else. But there is, you know, say over time we can't figure something out. We're going to have to do something. There's other uses you can do that aren't going to generate. But I don't know. We're not going to play that game. We're going to close this thing in 3 weeks, and we're going to do it with you guys.
And that's the best news I've heard. I'm glad that you're gonna, regardless of what the scenario says right here, I'm glad that you're gonna buy the land. Thank you. I think you're good.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yep.
So
You're investing in us. Thank you.
back to the 380 agreements, right, and what Chris has told us about retention ponds, right, that is not considered city infrastructure, right? So our 380 agreement cannot cover a city pond.
But I think we could work, could we do a deal where we donate a pond to the city pond and
No, we don't want it.
maintain my, we're to be considered.
What are you saying, Jack? So that,
Well, and I was just wondering if there's
Yeah.
the development agreement, I don't know the legality of this, would be up to y'all, but if there's a development agreement that can be entered into that's tied to the 380 that allows the buckets of money to be spread out outside of the public infrastructure, that's just a cap of money that is a max reimbursement regardless of what the money comes, right? Or what it's towards, it goes towards.
that would be hour per hour.
I think it has to be fairly specific.
And I don't know about the details, but just like any other variance, if there's something we're going against, if something specific in your ordinance, development agreement can potentially work out.
It's not so much the ordinance, it's the
Well, it's gonna
legality
have to,
And abatement.
and what the city can do legally.
it'll have to be used for public purposes, though.
But that could be job creation, correct?
Would be job creation.
So if that's ambiguous on,
So it takes somebody to dig the pond, so that's job creation?
when you create a job, there wouldn't be an academy without the law.
That's true.
The will be kind of what?
There wouldn't be a development.
Got it. Okay.
Businesses.
I know there's ways you can
Overall infrastructure.
skin a cat,
allows
right?
the building.
Yeah, you could build into the agreement that certain businesses would have to employ certain numbers of people to create. I mean, that's the way new tax abatements typically work, is that there's, the developer has to guarantee that there'll be X number of jobs created. And if there's not, then it lose the ability to get reimbursed. So, but it's, if the academy's not built, it's sort of the same thing.
Right.
You don't get the sales tax.
So I think that is, there's ways to create a development agreement.
Sure.
Work that without alternative
you have any other questions or any more?
Been a very good
Yeah,
presentation.
great job. Thank you. Thank you for hanging in there. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is council inquiry. And then with that, with the no inquiry, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Cheryl,
I second.
second by Casey, that we adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning this meeting at 7:04, say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, the motion carries. We will adjourn. Thank you. Thank you.
We need to visit with Chris to negotiate this